Hello, and welcome to the Corporate Middle, where we talk about product and project management in the trenches. I'm joined by
The
my
trenches.
co host, Kyle Johnson. Hello, Kyle. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. It's good. I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be here. I'm ready to jump into this one. I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah,
I'm
me too. Me
opinionated,
too.
so I like sharing my opinions.
Well, we love sharing our opinions. We had a few great episodes just come out, which is great. We had some great conversations, learned some things, and one of many things that we learned, I wanted to bring up in this episode because this is a very interesting one. It is our hot takes, our agile product management, project management hot takes. So I'm excited
Okay.
to hear about what you think are some spicy things that we need to talk. Kyle and I have been in the industry a long time, and we've seen a lot of different things. And a lot of those different things, good, bad, ugly, have really shaped and formed our opinions. Kyle and I used to work together, and I think we would have some very heated discussions, I would say, when we work together. And, not combative, but just talking about the different ways that we would run our teams. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity for us to talk about that today. So, Kyle, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to have you kick us off. And before you do so, what you had suggested earlier before we started the show, I think is a good idea, is what we'll do is we'll come up, once you present your hot take, we can have a devil's advocate
Mm-hmm.
position. So I'm going to try my best to give you reasons why your hot take isn't really that hot, or maybe it is that hot, and I would refute it. And the same would go for me when I give mine, and you would do the same.
Okay. So if you have to play devil's advocate, then I need to do my best to make a point that devil's advocate would seem foolish. Is that is that my job?
Yeah, I think so.
No.
Like whatever the opposite is of what I'm trying to say or what you're trying to say, that's what we're
Okay.
gonna do.
Okay.
So
I think I've got it. I got it.
all right, sounds good. All right, so why don't you start us off? Give us one of your hot takes.
Oh. Okay. So I think this is, I'm interested to see your opposing opinion on this. Okay. So starting with product management. A product manager's dedication is only as strong as the trust and support of their ownership and direction of their product.
Okay, interesting. Well, give me a
Let
little
me,
bit
so
more. Give
yeah,
me a
let
little
me,
bit
let
more of
me,
that. Let's
let me,
let's
let
see
me,
what
let
we
me
get.
fill in this for you. Okay. So what I'm really saying here is when I say a product manager's dedication, their engagement to a product, a team, an organization, an outcome, North Star metrics is going to ultimately be limited by how they're empowered, right? Um, if you put out any product manager worth their salt and say, I want to achieve A, B, and C, go do that. But then while they're doing that, you're like, you know what? I know better. I see what you're trying to build here, but we need to build D, E, and F, not A, B, and C, right? These, I think, as the whatever leader in the organization or I'm a salesman, whatever, this I believe is going to do better. And when I say I believe, I'm saying I believe without justification of like any market analysis or customer analysis to back it up.
You're
All right,
making this hard for me to refute.
I know, go for it.
Okay, so I think that if I were to play devil's advocate, if I were to give you the contrarian view, the main reason why that change in direction would end up happening, and let me state this from the opposite view of what I would think, but what I think comes from owner leadership, is that the business direction has changed.
Hmm.
So I understand that your dedication, what you mean by the project manager's dedication, is only as strong as the trust and support of their ownership and direction. However, you could have leadership trust in a product manager and make a change like you're suggesting, this is very difficult for me because
Hmm.
I think, one of the product manager's jobs is to understand when that strategic direction changes and how it changes. And it's just as important for a product manager to be as involved as possible with that strategic direction.
Hmm.
So they should be in lockstep with ownership, with leadership on that. So I'm saying all this because I find it very difficult to refute what you're saying.
I hear you. I hear you, and I agree with the position that you're taking as a counterpoint. Um, but I think when it's the exception, right? When there's just this dramatic change that somehow the product manager is unaware of, it happens once. That's not. I don't think that's going to tremendously impact a product manager's dedication. But when it happens over and over, like every quarter, you're creating a roadmap, and then that you're getting derailed because something. And this is based a lot on my past, so this is very subjective, but I've seen a lot of these shifts based on sales opportunities and not market conditions, right? It's I have this one customer who has this tremendous potential revenue. We need to chase whatever they need. And that, for some organizations and products, that might be the right answer.
I think
But
this. I think
when you
this
do
the
that,
hardest part. Yeah, I think the hardest part of that though is the friction that is applied to your employees when that change happens, right? So,
mhm,
yes, I, I agree that the dedication is only as strong, but it just it makes me think about how many times I've been running a team and it almost feels like the rug is pulled out from underneath you, right?
oh yeah.
When you start something and then you go, and that does erode on that dedication to the product manager in that position.
And it's contagious.
It is contagious. It is a weirdly contagious problem to have.
Because the moment that a product manager or similar leader on a team comes in with doubt, or jadedness, uh, the team readily adopts it. Often, right? It's not perfect, but it can be very contagious.
Yeah, it's funny. I
All
don't even
right,
think that's
enough about
a
my
very
stuff.
hot. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that's kind of true.
Yeah, I want to hear your hot take.
All right, on to me. All right. Let's see. Um, this one is an interesting one, and I firmly believe it. A project or product leader doesn't actually own their product. All right. So we hear a lot, especially from these framework authors, when they talk about building a Scrum team, building a project team, how much the autonomy of the team is really guided and directed by the product leader, how they are the ones that not only enable and push the team forward, but they also have higher fire capability when it comes to the product
Mm.
itself, right? And so
Uh-huh.
when a feature is suggested, or pushed down from corporate, or if a new direction is set up, like similar to what you were talking about, the product leader doesn't actually have the say on the owner of the product to be able to make any of those major decisions. And we're taught as we come through, like I said, by these instructors, that you are the owner of the product. In Scrum, for instance, the product owner is not supposed to be the product leader by name or product owner by name only. They're supposed to be able to have that ownership of the product. But what happens in the
Hmm.
corporate middle is that you are handed a product and then you're told you must do these things regardless of the capabilities of the team or the strategy or the direction that you were previously going in.
This is a tough one. So I, yeah, I've got a couple views on this. Okay, so devil's advocate. For many organizations, many products, and many product individuals, and I say individual and not leader on purpose because I'm going to define the difference. it's impossible to truly own your product. If we think about the ideal own your product, which is what you said, I mean, effectively full control, right? You're understanding the shifts, you're aligning work to your company's North Star metrics, right? You have hire and fire authority over the full product team. If you actually look at the practical execution of that, most organizations it doesn't work, and it doesn't work for good reasons. Let's just say a normal product manager. Most product managers I have hired, I have worked with, are not functional managers, and that means that they don't have the functional manager designation in their job role in the organization. So they themselves do don't have the privilege and don't have the training of being able to functionally manage people, which is to hire and fire. Which I'm going to get to the whole fire business later. I mean, so you can't hire. Number one, you don't have a budget to hire from, and two, you don't. Once you hire them, you don't have access to protected information. You're not able to determine what their compensation is, what their bonus is, all of that information, which normally a functional manager has. So that already takes away your ability to do that, but it's done on purpose. There are, so that's more of a product individual, I would say. Product
Yeah,
owners
but
and most product managers, hold on, I hear you, fit into there. So just by the rules of the organization and hiring in the United States, you can't have true control over it. You can't have functional control. However, you can make a product manager a functional manager. That's totally okay. Organizations just don't do that because most functional, and I don't know, I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. I need some more thought on this. I've been in the situation. It's a player coach role. Being a product manager is a full-time job. Being a good functional manager is a full-time job.
yes.
So doing both, and everyone jokes, like product managers have like 3 or 4 full-time jobs anyway. But being a functional manager is another full-time job. And you're probably not going to be the best functional manager for those people as their product manager because you're not focused on them. You're not focused on what is their career path? How do I elevate this person on our team? How do I coach this person being better? How to make them a better developer? Most product managers don't know how to make developers better developers. You can make them better team members. You can make them better employees at the company. You can make them better colleagues, but being like helping to develop their specific career paths is going to be challenging for a product manager to be able to cover everyone. Now, like for the thing you're actually talking about, I cheated and went with the easy stuff. Okay. Um, Owning your product from this is what we're going to build come hell or high water perspective. Um, I think this goes back to honestly what you're saying, what you were kind of alluding to in our last hot take. As an organization, leadership, so product leaders, I'm going to define what I see as product leader. A product leader is going to be your directors of product management. It's going to be your VPs of product, your CPOs. All of those generally have hire, fire, functional management capability, and they also handle some form of product, right? They're coalescing multiple roadmaps. They're reporting to executive leadership. They're helping to determine what the North Star metrics are. However you determine success metrics, they're generally involved in the crafting of those, right? That's their job. Product leaders tend to own more of the product than product managers do. But even then, it has been my experience that they don't. The core executive team, which differs company to company. It could be VPs, it could be directors, it could be C-levels, whatever it is. Whoever cares that much about the day-to-day to derail a roadmap, I say derail, like divert a roadmap. I said derail on purpose.
Yeah, you did.
Um, they tend to believe that they know better about something in the operation of the business, and they may know better. Um, so they're going to trust themselves more than product individuals to make decisions about the organization, right? I love your roadmap. but we need to save on tech ops expenses this quarter. So that's what we're going to work on because I need to save 500K to fit my budget. I don't care about your 36% likelihood of $15 million over the next 5 years, right? That's where this happens, and that is how organizations operate. This is why product individuals do not own their product. I mean, I say this, like the 1,500 things I mentioned are the reason why product individuals cannot truly own their product.
But even
Whether or
then,
not
at
they
that,
should.
but even at that stage, even if you had that shift, that product shift that you're talking about,
Mhm.
you don't even have control over the change within it. So, say we want to change to saving tech ops, you know,
Yeah.
if they were concerned with the outcome, that has always been my experience. If they were actually concerned about the outcome, then they would allow the teams the ability to be able to reach that outcome any way they can. And that's where a product owner owns
Oh,
their product, right? But we don't see that. Where they're concerned about the outputs. I mean, if you look at the AI situation now, I know we're derailing a little bit here, but like if you look at the AI situation, just earlier this year, Meta, Google, some of these the big tech companies were worried more about tokenomics and how many tokens an individual would chew through instead of understanding like what is that thing going to do,
yeah.
right? They're looking at the outputs, not the outcome. They quickly found that there is no real value or benefit out of using a billion tokens or consuming a billion tokens in AI when nothing actually comes out of it. And so if leaders were actually like, here is the strategy, here is I want you to take that tech ops and make that savings and come back to me when it's done or update me as you go, that'd be one thing. But instead they're like, I need tech ops savings, cut it from AWS, cut it from here, cut it from there. And you're like, well, the best place to be able to save would be, why don't we instead, cut our operational costs? Like, no, that's not what I said. I said cut it from AWS, right? And so that's what ends up ultimately happening.
I felt this very real world situation before.
We have run into it multiple times.
This
All right.
exact situation.
Oh, really? That
And just you
exactly.
can just replace AWS with Azure. That's
Exactly.
yeah.
Because they get a bug up their eye. All right. I have a tangential hot take, but I'm going to wait for you to do yours because I think
Okay.
it would be interesting to hear
I'll say you
yours.
don't get to jump in twice. So,
Yeah, no,
so
yeah.
hot take number three. All right. Ooh, oh, this kind of like bridges what I started talking about. All right. A product built according to what is sold will fail against a product that is sold according to what is built. All right.
Oh,
That sounded cool, but what do I actually mean by it? Um, if you build a product based on what sales is telling you or what like next potential sale is in the pipe, you are always going to be chasing that next customer in features. And you are never going to build a scalable product, and you're never going to build features that are solving larger problems, right? So, which is the whole point of, hey, what are understanding my customers' jobs to be done? Nope, we're not going to spend time doing that. We're going to listen to this customer who is a $5 million revenue like AR revenue opportunity. They want the screen to be green, and they want the buttons to be purple. And we're like, okay, that's great, but we could be building this thing that drives people to work every day and not worrying about the colors on the screen. And like, no, 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 no. The colors on the screen. That gets us this next sale. So that's building to what is sold versus selling what is built, right? And this goes into trusting your product managers, trusting your product organization to understand the market, understand the competition, understand the customer, the jobs to be done, and say, I have discovered these problems that need to be solved. And I guarantee you, I feel really good about solving these issues and making this product extremely valuable for a large number of people. And then sales takes that information and says, let me go find the people that need these problems solved. Once this is built, right? Or when it's close to being built, we know this is a sellable product, then go and sell it. That
okay.
product, the latter example, will always win long term.
Okay.
Organizationally, politically, financially, it will always win.
All right. I'm going to
All right.
talk to you like a CEO
All right. I want to
slash
hear it.
head of sales VP slash executive team member. Okay. All right.
Uh
So listen, we are out here trying to make money, Kyle. Okay.
huh.
And our largest potential sale can come from an organization that's looking for one very unique thing. Listen, we are very strong in our capability, Kyle. Okay? We have a very strong company. We've got good, knowledgeable people working on our product. However, company ABC,
Yeah.
who is the largest in our industry that we're targeting, has a need that they want to fulfill because they're not happy with our competitor. All right. We'll call them, big box software. Big box software is not giving them what they need. What they want is a green screen, Kyle. Okay. And
And
not
I
only
know that
can
we
we
don't
give them,
have a UI, but I want you to build one and then
that's
put a
right.
green
We don't
screen
have
on
a
it.
UI, but guess what? We're going to make a UI so that company ABC can leave big box software and come to us and pay us, lots and lots of money. Okay.
Can I comment on that because this is a foundational. Oh, this is a tangential hot take. Can I tangential here?
Do it. Tangentialize.
All right. So I think all of this is driven from the fact that salespeople, sales individuals, sales representatives, sales executives, whatever they call themselves these days, are incorrectly motivated. When you motivate
Yes.
someone on commission, I'm sorry for all you people out there who disagree with me, but when you motivate someone on commission for a software product, you are creating the exact opposite behavior of what you should for a team member of that software product. All of the organization goes through all this training. Like, this is how you work together. This is how you get behind a product. This is how you inspire people. This is how everyone shoots to North Star metrics, except for sales. All sales does is hit quotas and worry about their commissions.
Yeah.
There is no thought to sustainability, maintainability, extensibility of that software, which drives what my point is. If you build to what is sold, all of that is dropped. Nobody cares because it's always the next sale, and the next sale has nothing to do with the previous one, and it has very little to do with the broader needs of the market. So sales individuals, everybody out there, are incorrectly motivated for the organization. That is short-term motivation,
Yeah.
and it is long-term failure. Just
The
saying.
incentive
All right.
structure for software, I think it's not even software. I think there's a lot of things that are affected by this. The incentive structure are not set up for authenticity and for long-term success, right? It's generally set up so that people can get short-term gains as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what you're describing, right? The quarterly run. I think honestly, if you ever bought a car and then they always tell you go to the dealership on the last couple of days or the last day of the month. And it's not because they have some strange inventory issue that happens at that point. It's because the incentives are set up. They need to move that car very quickly, and they're
Yeah.
put in a bind because then once the sales month rolls over, then they don't get the sale in that previous period, right? And so they're looking to get rid of as much inventory as possible. And it's very similar to what you're talking about. Our incentive structures everywhere, especially in our society, is set up for short-term gain. And that is true in this instance here when you talk about it. Because what happens when you say, I can put together a feature as a product manager, you're given a strategy and you say, I can put together a feature in 9 to 12 months, that the bottom line is not affected as quickly as the company would like, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then it's even put more pressure on by the sales team, where the sales team is like, I need to get this done. Like, I have a quarterly report and a quarterly quota that I have to work toward, and you're not helping me right now. So give them the green screen so that we can at least get something out there, and they can give us the X amount of subscriptions that they say they're going to have. So, I think you're 100% right. Looking to build for quality. Wasn't that the original Agile manifesto? Was part of it was to build products for outcomes that matter instead of like requiring making it so that people would, satisfy leaders that would immediately get something that doesn't have a positive impact. I mean, that's it
I'm
right
trying to
there.
think of the statements that might fit that precisely, but yes, I think the intent is there. I don't know the statement that fully supports it, but yes, 100%.
Well, it's more along it's not a direct statement. It's not like they were saying
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
build for people, not for sales. But they were more like the incentive structure was set up and say, the
No,
incentive
you know what? I
structure
think they did say that. That
is
was
that
that
what
was
it was that
2.0.
number
Yeah, yeah,
four
yeah.
in the 13?
That
Yeah.
was that was.
But it's like people over processes and ensuring, they get the right things in place and building for purpose. Those are the things that
Yeah.
matter. Sounds
All
good.
right, I'm off my soapbox. I
All
want to
right.
hear your
I
hot
like that
take.
soapbox actually. I liked playing the bad guy on that one too. That was good.
That was good. I like that was. I have heard that statement so many times.
Immediately when you started talking, I said, "Oh, I know exactly how I'm going to position this."
Yep.
All right. So speaking of tangential hot takes, something that you mentioned about earlier about management. This is my hot take. Product leaders, project management, people management. Product management and project management is 80% people management, 20% resource management. And this is how I'm going to explain this.
Okay, I'm ready.
As much as they try to tell us about budgeting, about how to set up processes, about structure projects, work breakdown structures, none of that matters if the people around you are not one, influenced by your leadership,
Hmm.
two, convinced that you can get them to the place that you need them to get to, or three, straight up like you. I don't know how many instances I've been in where a successful project leader is someone who actually has the backing of the people that they work with, right? And in order to do that,
Hmm.
you have to manage them, these individuals. There are very specific groups of people that product leaders work with, right? You have the worker bees, the developers, those who are doing stuff. And by unfortunate stereotypes, they're much more closed off and they're much more not insular, not as introverted. That's the word I was thinking of. Introverted as others, right? And then you have to work with the middle management, right? Who are managing the people and have their own conflicts and things that they have to deal with. And then they have to be able to work and influence leadership. Because even though leadership is incentivized by short-term gains, they still have to be able to have the confidence in leadership to be able to accomplish those things,
Hmm.
regardless of what that strategy is. So this is all about understanding and managing people, understanding their expectations, making sure that they're working into the direction that you need to get to, and then that small portion, especially is around resource management, but especially now where AI can take care of that. Creating a breakdown structure, a product requirements document, emailing and taking notes, all of that stuff can be offloaded now. And so it's even more vital and important that a product leader becomes a people person and not
Mm.
a robot.
Okay, so this is one of those like the sky is blue, and I have to give you a counterpoint to that.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the lines of how we perceive colors is in the mind. Um, so, all right, if we say, so 80% people management, 20% resource management, and we're dividing people from resources. When we say resource
Yes, yes,
management,
yes.
all right, so I think the counterpoint to this is the like historical perspective of the proof is in the pudding. While I would make the argument that you just made because it's a fact of the job and it's a fact of several jobs. It's not just product managers have to do that. It's a common matrixed organization responsibility. But proof is in the pudding. Uh, a lot of the social engineering that's required as a product manager, a lot of the political games you have to play across the organization with leadership um, can be circumvented by just being amazing at being a product management. Although I think this is kind of like a chicken and egg scenario, because the people management you talk about tends to be how you get people behind you, because even if you're a fantastic product manager, what you're measured on are outcomes, right? And you don't control the outcomes. All of these people that you work with control those outcomes. So the idea is that if you worked your ass off, can we say that here? I'm sorry if you can't. If you work your butt
I'll
off,
allow it.
you can you can disregard, you know, the games and having to, you know, inspire people and trying to get those engaged with your product and your purpose and your outcomes, and get it done and prove to everyone that you're amazing without having to be a people person. It's possible. I've seen it done. I've seen awful product managers who nobody likes get stuff done. But I mean, in reality, I think it has more to do with the teams, like broader engagement and connection and social
Yes.
engineering that motivate. Like, I don't care if my product manager's awful. I'm still going to get my job done because I care about my job. I have a strong work ethic, and I want to get it done. Um, I think that's more the reality of what's happening. But still, I think that's the only defensible, semi-defensible argument, is you can still be amazing at your job without doing the people management. I'll actually give it a fun, amusing example. At a place I worked with, a team I worked with before, I was filling in because I was leading a team of product managers, and I think we had some attrition, so I was taking over a team temporarily until we filled the role. Um, it was clear that one of the developers was not a fan of me. It didn't matter. I could joke, I could be
Yep.
serious. It didn't make a difference. This person didn't like anything I did, um, and I could recognize that though, uh, and move on and still get the job done and make sure that individual was doing their job. But in recognizing that, I knew another individual would be better on that team because they would be more cohesive, they would gel better, and therefore make them more efficient, make them more productive, improve everyone's work life. And I did. I put another product manager on that team, and they loved this person. Even though it was amusing, they were still doing all the work that I defined. They just had a different face to put to that work, and it made it easier,
You
which
know,
supports your
that's
argument.
part of the reason why I say that it's 80% people management.
Yeah.
Uh, I have had similar situations, and it is like a cancer when there's one person who does not like that other person on a team,
Yes.
whether it's yourself or internally on the team. That that is like rust. That is like it's like just a virus that spreads real fast. It really kills the morale of the team, and it just leaves a gaping hole there for your productivity. And what's weird though is that the reason why I think what you talk about when there are product managers that are not people oriented, right, and they just get their
Hmm.
job done, are successful, is because that looks effective from a leadership perspective, from a top down perspective. That looks like that individual is accomplishing their job, and there's
Yeah.
other things that are going wrong, not the fact that he cannot or they cannot manage that team, right? Because I've had plenty of I've worked with a product manager. I worked in a highly matrixed organization where it was a product owner, product manager, technical product manager, and then a strategic product manager, like a business product manager. And we all reported up through the line, like how exactly how it sounds. And the product manager above me was awful. He was
Yeah.
absolutely terrible. Nicest guy in the world. He was actually a very nice guy, but would not do anything worth a crap. But his perception from leadership was that he's doing the best he can. And then my engineering manager didn't like me because I didn't fit the things that we wanted to do in a quarterly increment, and I called it out and I said, well, our engineering manager wants to do this and we can't fit it. And then she had to explain why they were distracting the team, and then immediately she didn't like me. So now we had this like weird dynamic where nothing could even come in through the pipeline, and then she was trying to push things from the side, and we just had weird conflicts, and I ended up getting pinched by it. So it happens whether a person brute forces their way up or whatever. The perception is that they were doing their job, which is crazy to me.
We should, I hadn't thought about this. We should honestly have a discussion on the relationship between product individuals and engineering management,
I,
because I've seen productive, extremely anti-productive, hostile relationships just because of this lack of clarity between like authority and team ownership and leadership. We should talk about that at
Yeah, they
some
have
point.
different goals and incentives. I would love to, if we're going to have this conversation, because I think we both are on the same side on this, I would love to bring on an engineering manager. You
It's
know,
yeah, I think that's a great idea.
someone who's worked in engineering who could defend that position a little bit better, because or else it's going to be just a
I know it'd just be
pile-on.
one-sided with us. I can play devil's advocate to that though. But anyway, we'll save that.
Okay, we'll say
Are we ready for hot take? What is this? Number five?
this
Hot
would be
take
number
five?
5.
All right. Ooh. Okay, so I'm gonna pivot to delivery frameworks. All right, so let's talk about being
Okay, okay,
agile.
good.
Um, ooh. Agile customization should be restricted to only those who have done the work to fully understand the impacted frameworks. Again, that's a really flowery way of saying what I mean.
Oh, I've got to
Everyone
play
loves to
devil's advocate here.
customize Agile, right? Regardless of what the flavor of Agile is, everyone's like, oh, we are the exception. We have to have Agile this way. And so my argument is, and God, oof, I'll get that in a second. I just had a flashback of somebody arguing about customizing their Agile. Anyway, here's the deal. Agile is meant to be adaptive, and everyone loves to define what agility and adaptivity mean, but it's meant to be. And people argue that it's meant to be customizable. And I will not argue against that. I want to say that's true. However, you can't customize something that you don't fully understand and do it well. What I mean by this is oftentimes organizations will adopt Scrum or Kanban or maybe extreme programming. Whatever it is, they adopt it. And immediately, before you even get to the real world implementation, somebody or some group of people say, we're exceptional for this reason. So it needs to be different for us, and we want to do it this way. And all I'm saying is you can do that when you fully understand all of the facets of a delivery framework and their intent before you change them. I'll give examples later, but I'm ready to hear the counterpoint.
All right, listen. I'm gonna take the position again from a leadership perspective. All right, engineering manager
Mm-hmm.
who has been through a company, has done an agile transformation, but that they've been at that company for we'll say 10 plus years. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
this is the general understanding I have, like what the excuse, not the excuse, the reasoning that people have given me when I hear you present your idea. Right? Listen, we need people in a position of leadership who know what they're doing. I've worked with framework example A. We'll say Scrum. I've worked on a strict Scrum team, and the only time that Scrum works is when we have people who know about it. And the only way that people know about it is they've gone through the program. Listen, I am a big Scrum Alliance person. I think that you have to be trained through the Scrum Alliance. I think that it's not something flowery. It is a way for us to get faster. Okay, because you know my buddy on another team on another company also went through this. They went through like a large, we'll call it big box software again. Big box software did this transformation using this exact process and the exact third party company to help us do the transformation. Okay? What we need is people who know, not people who think they know, people who know. That is why we're going to bring those people in, because they've been trained exactly the same way, and we need all our teams to work the same exact way. Now that I got that out of my system, that's garbage. Okay, I'll tell you that right now. It's garbage.
Uh-huh.
What
Uh-huh.
matters is that people, like you're right, need to understand. They need to understand. The adaptability is crazy. I think you bring up a good point where every company thinks that they are a unique snowflake in the land of the companies. And it goes all the way down to the leadership of the product team and the engineering team, where they're like, no, 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 no. We're different because we operate in this way. And so because of that, we can't do exactly what you want to do, which is exactly what you're talking about. We need to be adaptable. We need to be in a situation where, it doesn't matter if the teams are using a specific framework. It matters how they're implementing it and then how they're coming to it, which makes the most sense.
One additional thing I want to cover with this hot take, just clear examples of what I mean about knowing a framework. Let's choose Scrum, because most people know what that is. You have a specific sprint for a number of weeks. You work on some items, and ideally at the end you deliver them. There's ceremonies in between, you do work in between, and at the end of the sprint you've delivered something. There's an organization I joined that wanted to practice Scrum. They were previously doing some kind of hybrid XP before I got there. And I was in a product ownership kind of Scrum Master role, and I said, okay, so we're newly moving into Scrum. Let's talk about sprint weeks, like sprint length. Is 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, right? We do 1 week. I said, oh, okay. Why? Because that's what we've done. That's what we're used to. I said, okay, but well, have you looked at the type of work that you need to actually deliver? Is it work that you can complete in half of a day, or is it work you generally need 2 to 3 days on before you go from develop to test to staging? It doesn't matter. We do all sorts, but we do a week. Forgetting how that potentially ultimately got to resolution. It's that specific opinion. We do it this way just because. This is what we're used to. This is what we like. Not knowing that a choice like sprint length has a significant impact on how successful you're going to be using that framework. Because if you are building very large features that take 4 or 5 days to develop, a 1 week sprint is not going to be ideal. Probably not even a 2 week. You might need a 3 week sprint. But the point is, you have to know why these things are a part of the framework and understand them before you say we're going to go to 1 week, or it's going to be 2 weeks, or we're not going to have a retro, which, by the way, if anyone says you should not have a retro, that's a problem. But anyway, anytime you want to customize a framework like Scrum, know why you're doing it. Thoroughly why you're doing it. All right, let's jump to hot take 6.
My thought is this: you can mix and match process frameworks to manage the work on your team. All right, and this is the thing. So we have had discussions in the past. There are some strict agilists out there. I would have counted you as one of them back when we used to work together. And I remember having a discussion with you about how you would use, how would you be able to get software delivery efficiently if the rest of the company is not in lockstep, if your guys are not all in lockstep together, right? So if we're going to adopt a framework, we should do one. But I propose that I think that a team, if it needs to be Kanban, it needs to be Kanban. If it needs to be Scrumban, it needs to be Scrumban. If you need to be able to have some sort of waterfall feature, waterfall delivery, but with some iterative development, I propose you end up putting that in there. And the whole idea behind that is that you have to be able to adapt to your team, just like you were talking about. You got to be adaptable. You got to know how to work with your team. You got to make sure that your team is enabled and empowered, and whatever your team feels comfortable with, because every team is going to operate slightly differently, then you should be able to do whatever you need to do to make that work. And I think this goes in line with a little bit about what you're saying, that you got to know the framework in order to be able to do that. So this is, of course, manage at your own risk. I wouldn't recommend somebody who's new to some sort of agility framework to just say, oh yeah, I'm going to use whatever framework I want. But I would say eventually, once you do know that you can take advantage of all of those learnings and apply them as necessary.
Okay. My statement is going to support my previous one, and I will take, and I will adopt strict agilist here. Few people, okay, let me just say, not enough people know enough about the frameworks that they would be customizing to do it effectively. So mixing and matching is rarely going to work because the people necessary to make mixing and matching work are the ones educated in those frameworks. So leadership is going to have heard of this thing and somebody said this is a good idea. Uh, they're the ones who are going to be able to say, yes, support you can run on Kanban. I want these 3 dev teams on Scrum. Um, you know, uh, uh, these 2 can work on Crystal. Whatever the framework is you choose. Or even then, like you're choosing Scrumban, the people do not know well enough, and they're not going to. It's simply a matter of people do not put enough effort. Enough people do not put enough effort into understanding the why of their processes. We ask people to understand the why of the products we're making. We understand the why of their motivation at work. We understand the existential whys. Process whys are really only dug into by a handful of people who are process people. And there's not
Mm-hmm.
enough of them in authoritative positions to make this work. That is what I'm
That's
going to
true.
say. Now, I will adopt strict agilism here and say that mixing frameworks on a team, I think is wrong 95% of the time. Mixing frameworks, in an organization can absolutely work because your framework needs to support the type of work you're doing and your delivery methods. That's why I said support UB Kanban, which makes total sense, right? That's how support teams generally work because they work in real time and their priorities change in real time. Whereas a dev team can't manage that kind of real time change and be successful mid to long term with all of the context switching that comes along with it because their work items tend to be larger than support. All right,
Yeah, I
done.
will. I will say I have worked on teams that are working on features that have done Scrumban. Now, these are quick features,
But
not.
what piece from Kanban and what piece from Scrum? Like if it's all Scrum and you guys are tracking cycle time to make it Scrumban, I mean,
That's what
yes,
it
that'll
is. It's
work.
essentially stories with cycle time, as opposed
Okay, then
to
yes, that's fine. That's not. I wouldn't say that's. You're
that's
using a
Scrumban.
metric. You're using a metric from another framework. You're not using
But
a
you're not using
process
it's
really.
iterative development, but only in the sense that it's not time boxed. That's what makes it different. Because like if you're
Oh,
just
you're not okay. So you're not just tracking cycle time. You're
no,
looking at.
yeah,
Um, oh, you guys are really doing.
that's Scrumban.
I'm,
So
tr-
you're
I'm trying.
taking in
No, I'm trying to
stories.
make a
You're doing
portmanteau that's the
weekly
reverse of Scrumban.
bomb Scrum. Like,
No,
what do you mean?
that's. But that was the full word. You have to get the back half of the word. That's what I'm saying. Like Bonham, I don't think it's the right. Anyway, no, I get it. I'm following what you're saying.
Yeah.
Um,
I've used it successfully in instances. Well, it's more along the lines of you need to do things quickly. Your point about larger bodies of work makes sense, right?
mhm.
Like I think you do need some sort of time box iteration in order to really understand over time getting feedback from your customers and doing all those things. That makes the most sense. But when you're doing small iterative development in terms of like small features or small stories, it's not just support. I think it lands in the category of a product that has been released and is being maintained is a good opportunity for Scrumban because not only are you taking in items because you're mixing you're mixing in your development with like support of that product, and I think that gets missed a lot too, where a product team will not only create a product and release it, but they also have to maintain it. And so, how
Yeah.
do you manage that in an environment where you're strictly running time box development. That doesn't always work, especially if your service level agreements are dictating the way that you respond to your customers, right? So you need some way to be able to not only have the benefits of iterative development, but also to be able to, communicate how quickly you can get those things out.
You convince leadership to hire a support team. That's how you solve it.
Uh,
So
yeah.
there's actually
Wait, are we? Let me go back to being the guy who's like, listen, we need to get big box smart software, right? Give them the green screen. That's what we need the money.
So one thing I will say, because I want to talk strict agilist here, the whole point of these like small development cycles, regardless of framework, was to fail fast,
Yes.
right? So that you could do something, see if it solved a problem, see if it solved a problem correctly, see if whoever's using it is satisfied, and then iterate on it. That
That's
whole
right.
iterate on something, that
And learn.
is that I want to say that is effectively gone from the mentality of agile software development. The way that I see Scrum and Kanban and everything else leveraged is do it in these cycles to get work done faster, not do
Oh
work,
yeah.
then evaluate if it was good work, and then make that work better. It's do work A, do work B, do work C, do work D. Like literally just get things done
It's just
fast
waterfall.
is the reason. Yeah, it's just mini waterfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But whatever the case is, I'm off that point. Are we on? What is this, number 7?
7.
Is this mine or yours? I don't remember.
Yours.
This is mine. Oh, okay, all right. Let's see. Ooh, okay. Since we're on delivery frameworks, let me jump to this one. A delivery framework success depends more on leadership adoption than team adoption. So
This is
I've
a
seen
good
this
one.
happen a lot. Yeah, this is probably my chief complaint about Agile at any organization is it doesn't matter how much you train your devs and your business analysts and your scrum masters and your product owners and your product managers. It doesn't matter how much you train them. If your leader, be it the head of engineering or the head of product or a joint one, whomever, if they are not behind the adoption and continued handholding and guidance and direction to follow a framework, it will not succeed. Because outside of the opinions of developers saying that we're unique, organizations saying that they're unique, people will always do what's easiest in
Yes.
the long run.
Path
They'll
of
always
least
edge to what's
resistance.
easiest. And frameworks are going to be unfamiliar, right? They're going to feel process heavy sometimes. They're going to feel confusing. And people are always going to push against that. And if there is not a authority figure in the organization that pushes this, that says, hey, I know it's difficult, but keep trying. And here is the requisite coaching for each of the teams to show you why you do these things, even if they may seem unfamiliar or superfluous, it's going to fail. Because you're going to have 4 people on the team that say, I love this, I want to do it, but that 5th person is going to stop it from being successful.
So I'm going to take a different take than the leadership counterpoint I was taking
Okay.
before. All right, and I'm going to take it from my own experience.
I thought you were going to give me some grassroots success stories, but okay, I want to hear it.
Well, I am. This is a grassroots success story. So, okay. So I'm gonna let me just say from the beginning. I think it's obvious that unless you have top-down support, like the long-term health and success of a framework really depends on those leaders, buying in. Like, of course, I get it. But I will say
Because
this.
I'm ready to argue grassroots all the way, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was just about to say, I'm ready to tell you that you can, as a product leader, I think you can find success even when you don't have leadership adoption. And I will also go as far as saying that even if things don't seem as if they were a success, you're accomplishing more good than you can by doing your grassroots. So as a product leader, like a product owner, for instance, or a product manager who's running a development team, the way you organize your team, I think, can be encapsulated enough where the outside influences can can be resisted, and you could adopt a framework within your team and not have the support of leadership. I think you can do that wholeheartedly. Now, there's a couple of factors that depend there, right? One, the product leader needs to be the conduit of communication for your metrics for success. And what I mean by that is, if if you work in a waterfall organization and you want to do more high speed iterative development, but the metrics that you're measured by your success are not conducive to high stakes, high speed iterative development, you need to adapt your outputs to be able to show within that organization's framework, right? And so I've done this. So my team, I worked for a company where they were mostly a support organization and they had small dev teams. They supported a big box software, and that was like the core of their we were almost like an MSP, I would call it, right? And so and it was in the healthcare space. And then they decided to have an internal development team. So the organization did not have an agile mindset. The organization didn't have frameworks adopted within like Scrum or anything like that. They were mostly managed by the big box software's processes. All right. So when they got this internal development team and they needed to be able to do something internally, what I did is I took over that team and I structured the team to work within an iterative framework. It was different than what they expected. So the roadmaps were not dictated by big box software. We dictated the roadmaps. The implementation and ingestion of data was not dictated by big box software. It was us that did that. And so what I did is when I presented to leaders about how we were going to be moving forward, I used the metrics and basically I would say the templates of the metrics from the big box software, and I adapted our outputs to be along those lines. So I used the exact same kind of verbiage. But I had the team running in a high iterative Scrum framework. And we were a Scrum team. We had all the things internally within our bubble. We had all of the ceremonies. We did all the things, and we did presentations according to how that other company worked. And we were able to interconnect with them by still preserve our ability to work quickly and adapt to change very quickly. And we proved that. And so I would say that a delivery framework success is not always dependent on leadership adoption, because I think you can do it as a product leader.
I hear that. I think we're talking about different things, though. I'm talking about a framework success, and I think you're talking about outcome success of a team. You don't have to follow any delivery framework necessarily, and you can still be successful delivering items and meeting company goals, and like you said, translating them from product as a product individual to align with their delivery expectations. What I mean specifically is the success of a framework, like actually executing Scrum. So which means your team's able to plan a sprint. They can during the sprint planning, they can estimate. They can execute on the stories throughout the sprint. They deliver on the last day of the sprint. And then you have a retro in which you discuss, this is how the sprint went. This is where things were problems. This person sucks. Whatever it is, right? And these things are how we're going to experiment making better. Like that, the success of that, period. Just the process, not necessarily the delivery of your items that the process governs, but the process itself. So
well, that's what I was kind of getting at, is that as a product leader, I could do that internally with my team without the support of leadership.
You can, but it also is highly dependent upon the team, right? So
Right,
if
of
you
course,
say as
yeah.
a product, hey everybody, let's do Kanban for like, I want to spend this quarter trying Kanban because we have shifting priorities all the time. We have these really fast incremental deliveries that we can pump out. I'm interested in understanding exactly how long it takes from us to go from conception to delivery of the item, and then everyone says, cool, let's do that, Johnny. And then halfway through it, one person's like, I don't like this. I feel I don't like being stuck with limited items. As you know, I don't like a whip limit. I want to jump to something else, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Right or wrong. I'm saying they just don't want to follow the process. You can't force them to. And
right.
if somebody doesn't like it, they're going to
Provide resistance.
garner support from from their colleagues. Hey, I don't want to do this anymore, right? This we have to go to a meeting every week and I'm sick of it, man. Let's not do this anymore. And they're like, okay, right, let's stop Johnny. All that's all I'm saying is that is all it takes. And if you had a team that you unilaterally got to follow a specific framework and there was no mutiny at any point, like congratulations. You did a good job, but
Well,
yeah,
there
I
was no
don't see it
mutiny.
happening
There was no
often.
mutiny with my team.
That's what I'm saying. If you were able to do that,
Yeah.
I applaud you.
I mean,
But it's
it had its challenges. It's not like I was able to do it, like just on my own with full autonomy. I had to obviously adapt that. That part of the reason why it was successful is because like I talked about, I used the nomenclature and the ideas of the big box mart in order to make sure that we could communicate what we were doing.
yeah,
Because when you have a waterfall organization or an organization that just expects to be given results and success on demand, because that happens at every company, right? Like, I need you to do this. I need you to do it yesterday. That's generally the rule here in America, right? We're really bad about, telling our people we need stuff done and then not giving them the time and energy to do it. But what I found successful is that you have to be able to take control of that. As a product leader, you got to control what you can control, and that's how you can make success. Now, I don't disagree with you. One example before we move on to the next one is I worked for a company that I wasn't part of it, but what the funny thing was is that they adopted SAFe and they went through
yeah.
this whole agile transformation and they were like, oh yeah, okay, we're going to do SAFe. We're going to do all these things. And then over time, they started to hate it because of the exact kind of things that you were talking about. I don't like going to this meeting. I don't find it useful, blah, blah, blah. And then it turned out that they could run SAFe, but you couldn't call it SAFe. It had to be like some generic agile because SAFe was the bad word at the time,
Ham
which is
sandwich
crazy.
agile.
Very funny. All right. So that was your take, right? All right.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up on our final two here. I want to hear it from you. I think an effective PM, whether it's project manager or product manager, is not contingent on having specific industry experience. And I think this is controversial for a lot of people, especially hiring or at least leaders who want to bring people in. Did you want to say
All
something?
right. I don't think that needs a lot of explanation though. Before I jump in with a counterpoint,
Okay. All right.
I
All
think it's
right.
a
If
very
you
black
get
and
it,
white
go
statement.
for it. If you didn't want
Yeah,
me to
I get
explain
it.
it, because I do think it does sum it up there.
Okay, I was about to say if there's some like nuance you wanted to share, please. Okay. I'm going to take this from not the CEO because the CEO is not going to say this. Who would say this? Um, Gosh, I'm going to say this as the VP of operations would say this.
Okay.
Um, Johnny, our organization operates in a very niche industry. We spend countless hours, days, and dollars training all of our employees to understand the ins and outs of X industry. When we bring in a product manager, they need to have a strong understanding of X industry, or it's going to put us 3 to 6 months behind the ball in effectively delivering product to our customers in X industry. Don't you like how I'm saying X industry?
I like that. I like that.
Um, I mean, honestly, that's the argument you're going to hear.
Oh, I know that's the argument here, and I will say this: we have talked about a couple of things here that kind of summarize what I feel about this point. One, I think people management is a huge deal, right? Because you could be very effective in an industry, like you can know an industry, but you could be a terrible people person, right? And
Yeah.
that you will struggle in forwarding your product. There are people who just want to take all of the information to themselves and like, listen, I don't care what you do, just do it. And that is not very effective either, right? You when someone sits there and says, "Hey, I know all of the things," I'll give you a good example. We worked with a guy who was like, "I know all about this industry. I know what I'm doing. For you to question me is out of line." And I'm not talking about questions like, like how dare you? Do you know what you're talking about? More like, can you explain to me why this is a valid point, or why is it that you think this is a good example for us to follow so that I can understand? And that person didn't have any patience and was like, no, if you don't know what's going on in the industry, then I don't want to deal with you. Now that's crazy because I had to not only juggle the team, but learn about the product and then be able to, create delivery. You can be able to, provide delivery. So I think a person who is willing to learn, someone who is effective in, organizing a project, someone who can work with and influence other people, I think they are as effective as someone who has less of those qualities and more of the industry knowledge and experience, because that only gets you so far. Great. You know all about widgets. That's amazing. But do you know how to sell, like how to sell those widgets? Do you know how to produce those widgets? Do you know about like any of those things? How do you deliver on, organizing a team? How do you get people to follow you? Like all of those things are matter just as much as how much they know about those widgets.
So I think all of that is true. And there's not a, I think, convincing counterpoint I can offer other than my initial one. Um, I think this, I wouldn't call it a phenomenon because it's not uncommon, but this scenario happens often in specific industries. I think they are in the more niche industries where this is where you commonly see what's the prejudice against individuals not from that specific industry when it comes to hiring. Um, I don't think something as broad as telecom, you don't really see that kind of preference for industry experts, but it absolutely exists in the more niche industries because there is a strong belief in that we cannot get something done unless you already know all of our problems and all of our customers' problems and who all the competitors are in the space, and all the technology in the space. That is a common problem. But I agree with you entirely when it comes to, and here's the challenge. You have to be thinking past 6 months. You have to be thinking about the next 3 to 5 year success of a product and organization. When you're choosing a people manager, someone who can, it's awful that I keep saying socially engineer, but that is effectively what you do, right? When you're a super communicator, when you're able to, connect with individuals, you can share your motivations, understand their motivations, uh, gain the trust of others, inspire people after you've built this level of trust with them. You are going to be an effective person regardless of what the industry is, and hell, regardless of what your role is in the organization. Um, but similar to the incentives
Yeah.
that drive product requirements, it's not always aligned.
I think there's a fallacy I agree with you that there are niche industries. Like I wouldn't expect somebody to say, who has no pharmaceutical experience and try and run a pharmaceutical project. I wouldn't expect somebody with, semiconductor who needs a semiconductor builder and then bring somebody who doesn't know about semiconductors, right? Like I get that. But what I do think you have
But
brought
I'm a
up
people
multiple
person.
times. Yeah, what you brought up multiple times in this, and it's like I think this is the overriding kind of factor is that everybody thinks they're a unique snowflake. That's
Yeah.
that's the real problem here. So you could be losing out on people who could be effective in moving your product forward and then learning your industry if you gave them the opportunity to do that. But instead, I'll, my company, my industry, my position is so unique. I need someone who's super unique and can hit the ground running, and I never have to deal with them. But then you end up with a whole other host of problems. If they cannot run a development team because they've never run a development team, if you need someone who needs to clean up a process, process organization, and they have never worked in those frameworks like you were talking about before, they're not effective, even if they know the industry, because it doesn't really do anything for them. So I think there's too much of that. We are a snowflake thing that goes on. We need more people. We need more companies that will actually invest in people in that way, right? But we don't think beyond the 3-month, quarterly earnings report, which is part of the reason why we're struggling in software right now.
I also think that there's a bias toward looking for individuals in your industry because there's more work on you and your
Yeah.
current colleagues if you don't. But it's all very valuable work you should be doing. So for anyone who potentially hears this, who is in hiring or looking for product managers, if you get a product manager outside of your specific industry and they're not asking questions like they're not learning your acronyms on the first 2-3 days of work. If
Yeah.
they're not asking about the customer, if they're not asking about, hey, why does the customer do this? Or why do we have this feature? If you don't hear why, like as the normal question in what is it? In interrogative? Is that the definition? What is it? If you don't hear why, then you do need a different product manager because that's a hallmark of a good product manager is curiosity, right? You get someone who's outside of industry, they need to be asking questions because they should be genuinely interested in learning. They want to learn the organization, they want to learn the team, they want to learn the customer, the product, all of those things, and they should be asking what and why. Why? So if you don't see that, then yes, find somebody else. That's
I think
all.
that's a perfect place to end it. That's great because I 100% agree. Kyle, as always, it is a pleasure speaking with you. I thought
And you, sir.
we had some pretty good hot takes and some lukewarm takes and some interesting positions that we have taken here. So that's pretty good. I think
These
it
are
was
all
great.
self-evident truths. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. Well, I look forward to when we get together again. Hopefully, we'll bring on a guest. You got an idea? We got an idea about potentially bringing on an engineering manager. I think that's pretty good. But there's a lot of aspects of product and project management we haven't even, we've only scratched the surface. We haven't even explored the depths of these lines of work and the amount of interesting people working in this place. So I think it will be good for us to do that. So with that
I
being
look
said,
forward to
sir,
it.
thank you very much. Everybody else, thank you for coming along. Have a good day.
Thank you all.